Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Found in Interpretation podcast. Once again, I'm one of your co-hosts, Alain Breton, and I'm here with Brian. Brian, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm doing great. And we are also here with Hans. Hans, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Great being here.
All right.
Great.
Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and let's kick it. Welcome, Hans. Hans has an extensive resume. Just a few highlights here. He has a diploma in conference interpretation from the University of Heidelberg, diploma in opera singing. He's a member of AIC since 1992. He was the president of AIC France until 2020. He has over 3,500 days of interpreting experience.
And counting.
I almost met him at Glendon, but we were interrupted by a virus in 2020. Very few people have heard of it. And because of that, we couldn't meet in person, but it's a pleasure to greet him today on Found in Interpretation podcast. Hans, how you doing?
Very well, and it's an enormous pleasure to meet you guys. We didn't meet in person, but at least now we meet online.
Yes, likewise. And we have a lot of friends in common too, it sounds like.
Indeed,
so
indeed. As we said, it's a small world.
Absolutely. Speaking of a small world, the reason why I reached out was because there was an interpreter colleague of ours who went and visited Nuremberg and was in Courtroom 600, where the Nuremberg trials happened post World War II. And you had commented that you had actually worked there. And so that I was like immediately intrigued and thought, geez, what an awesome story this is going to be. So did you want to talk a bit about your experience there?
Well, yes. Okay, I didn't work during the Nuremberg trials, by the way.
No.
I'm not old. I mean, I've been working for 40 years and counting, but I did not happen to work at the Nuremberg trials. But I did work at the Nuremberg courtroom, which was quite an event. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I know my friend and colleague Elke Limberger, who lives actually in Nuremberg, and she is the one who had actually put together this exhibition about the Nuremberg trials. So that was on the one side. But on the other side, I happened to have an assignment in Nuremberg, and it was in room 600. And I don't know how many years that's ago. It must have been like 6 years ago or a bit more or less. So it was before COVID. And a colleague of mine from Baden-Baden, who happened to be a former student of mine. I mean, most German, Spanish interpreters have been students of mine. So, I mean, there's no way around that. And she calls me up and would you be available for this and that in Nuremberg? And it was actually an Argentinian general prosecutor who was actually doing all the trials about the crimes of the Argentinian military junta in Buenos Aires and all over Argentina. You know, I mean, I lived in Chile and I was born in Chile, and we had a military government there as well for quite some time. I left in 1979. I mean, the junta was there between 70 and 73, but no. Wait a minute, that was wrong. 70 to 73, we had Allende. In 73, we had the coup d'etat. And then we had Pinochet for quite a time. And I left in 79 to study in Heidelberg. So I knew about this whole thing of military governments in South America. And more or less at the same time, there was a military government in Argentina with all these horrible things they did. I mean, throwing people from airplanes into the Atlantic Ocean and never to be seen again. And so there were trials going on when democracy came back to Argentina. And this general prosecutor came to Germany and actually gave a big lecture at the courtroom in Nuremberg. And it happened to be room 600. And that was
Wow.
I mean, you go in there, you're a bit nervous anyway. And it was kind of simultaneous without a booth. So we didn't have the setup of the Nuremberg trials, but we sat there and did, we worked into a microphone, and it was Spanish, German, German, Spanish, and was about 3 hours, and he gave a lecture about those trials, and that was quite an impressive thing. I mean,
Yeah.
just walking in there, walking into this court, Nuremberg, and going up the stairs and kind of being lost. And where's courtroom? Oh, that's number 600. And open this door, and I go, oh gosh, that's the room.
I recognize this place.
Do I have
Yeah.
the right address
I
here?
yeah. It's the room, and that was quite something. Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, you read all about it, and when you're studying interpretation, like just the whole the birthplace of interpretation and what the role interpreters played in the trials back then, and then just to be in that room again and doing something sort of similar, because it was basically war crimes too, with the junta, the military junta.
obviously, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, touches
So
home
everything
quite a bit.
kind of came back in my mind. And after that, with Elke, because obviously we met in Nuremberg when I was there. And then I went back to Nuremberg for another conference, which has nothing to do with that. But still, we talked about this whole exhibition thing. And at that time, I was elected president of AIC France. And I said, there's one thing I want to do during my presidency. I want to bring this exhibition to France. And I did about 5 times. So the
Wow.
first, the
Your
first
dream, your
edition,
dream happened 5 times.
indeed. Well, I was quite active and I was pushy about it. So the first one was at Arte, which is the German-French culture channel, which happens to be in Strasbourg. So we actually put up the exhibition at Arte, obviously with high hopes that they would do a documentary about it. And I repeat this because I'm still waiting for this documentary to happen, and I just hope they do one day. I have to start insisting again. So we did it in a hallway there. It was wonderful, and there was a big thing, and there was a lot of interest from the journalists and also from the artist staff, but in the end, nothing happened. So I guess we'll have to insist about that. So that was the first edition of the Nuremberg exhibition. It was only French and German there. And then I organized one at ISIT, one of the 2 Paris interpreting schools. And there we did the big version as well, with all the languages. I mean, English, French, German, and Russian. Am I missing one? No. And that was quite a success, yes and no, because I remember for the vernissage, very few people actually popped up. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and somehow we didn't have enough public there, and I was a little bit disappointed because obviously we had invited a number of personalities to talk about the trials and so on. There's this colleague from Hamburg, George Drummond, who is really he's an expert on the trials, by the way. I mean, this would be something for a podcast. He lives in Cape Town now, by the way. Yes. But obviously it's Elke and George Drummond, and he knows everything about this exhibition. And actually at that time, we had 2 survivors still.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yes. Oh, I can't think of the names, but one lived in Hawaii. Siegfried Rammler actually is his name, but he passed away about 2 or 3 years ago. And the last survivor was a lady, and I don't remember her name either. She was in an old age home in Paris, and I think she passed away last year. So that was the last survivor, and we were not able to interview her any longer. And I would have loved to get first-hand experience about the trials. And after the one at ISIT, we did the big one at the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. And I've sent you some pictures from there, Brian. And that was a big, big thing. But the other problem there was that it was right after COVID, kind of. And not everyone, and there was an accessibility problem at the European Court of Human Rights. So the general public can't get into the court. You see, I mean, we interpreters can go because we have our badge and things like that. So we had to organized visits, guided visits there. So we did, and so we got 20 people in, and then another 20. But It
Was
was
that
there for
because of
2 weeks. Yeah.
the social distancing and all
A
that?
little
And
bit, a little
yeah,
bit.
okay,
So,
okay.
but still, I think that was one of the nicest installments of the exhibition, because first of all, in the European Court of Human Rights. I mean, there you go. I mean, you see Nuremberg Court and then Human Rights Court, and we did a number of conferences about this whole subject and about human rights in Syria, about human rights in Afghanistan, and protection of interpreters in conflict zones. You see, there's this one colleague who was president of AIC as well, and she's very much into protecting interpreters in conflict zones. So this whole thematic was in parallel, more or less. So that was great, and also the building is just beautiful. You see, so we had all the
Is it
language.
true? Is it true that conference interpretation, no, not conference interpretation, but more like simultaneous interpretation, because of the technology from IBM back in
Yes.
those days, that makes it the birthplace of simultaneous interpretation? Because sometimes people online say that actually this happened before. Do you
Yes.
know about that?
Yes. I mean, this is the one that was in 4 or 5 languages, and this is a more prominent birthplace and birth situation of simultaneous interpreting, but it had happened before. I mean, there was a conference, I can't remember it now. There were 2. There was one in Russia, in St. Petersburg, as far as I know, where they used simultaneous, but only between 2 languages. And I think that was the International Labour Organization who organized something, but that was also only between 2 languages.
Okay.
And there was also a radio broadcast of a speech by Adolf Hitler that was being interpreted into French and simultaneous at that time. But
Wow.
we always say it's Nuremberg because that's the first time where we had more than 2 languages, and the trial was about 2 months. So, I mean, and we had lots of interpreters there.
I imagine that the technology, like, it would all be wired, so everybody would like have a wire that goes to headset,
Yes,
like the
have
way
you
that we
seen
have, but like
pictures
just
from it? I mean, it's just they didn't have real good headphones, or the really heavy ones, and they were kind
You
of
mean they didn't have
holding a
any
microphone.
Bose or Sennheiser or Audio Technica? None of that? Are you
No,
kidding? How would they work?
none of that, and probably no water in the booth and nothing. And they
No
were
AirPods
sitting,
either.
and no soundproof booths either. So, I mean, there were 3 interpreters, and there were like 1, 2, 3, 4 booths
wow.
there. And
Yeah,
well, the
booths.
other thing, I mean, being a trainer, an interpreter trainer myself for 40 years almost, all these guys were not trained. Can you imagine? For us trainers, that is anathema. How can you put someone in a booth without training him?
I remember the first time I
With
went into the booth, I had no training. It's the same
the
thing, but with stakes that are much higher.
Much
Yes,
higher.
yes. I mean, I mean, when I trained, also that the trainers just sent us to the booth for the first day in interpreting and just read out a speech and said, "Go on and do it," and then obviously we're slaughtered afterwards how bad we were, and no one told us how this was done. Obviously, training has evolved a lot, and now before we send someone in a booth, we tell them how to do this with strategies and concentration exercise and millions of closed tasks, and just to get their brains going before they even utter a word in the booth. You see,
Yeah.
so considering that these poor guys just happened to be bilingual or something, and happened to be very intelligent, obviously, and they
But
were
they were not
kind
even
of.
consecutive interpreters?
Some of them were, some of them weren't.
Okay.
You see, some of them. And so, I mean, they kind of tested them for a week or so. And then they put them in the booth with this high profile, high level conference there. And some of these guys, I mean, they were extremely stressed. There were this Mr. Jakubowicz, I can't remember all those names. I should have prepared better, indeed. Arnaud Jakubowicz, who happened to be a Jew from Strasbourg. So that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
And he couldn't bear the stress. So after the trials, he left his family and disappeared completely from the map.
Was that an
And it took
excuse or was it?
many years because he had post-traumatic stress.
Oh
Okay.
my!
Now, today we talk about
Wow.
post-traumatic stress as something completely normal. We have post-traumatic stress after each conference sometimes. So, what shall I say?
For
But
different
we
reasons.
adapt, okay? We know
So you're
how to
sure he was
cope
not
with
trying to
that.
leave his wife, right?
No, because, well, yeah, kind of, yes, because his granddaughter said, wait a minute, this can't be. Her mother was talking horrible things about her father and said, he left us, he left the whole family, blah, 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 all that. And we don't even know where he is. And you're right. I mean, he was starting to leave his family, but it was because of this post-traumatic stress. So he wasn't able to cope with that. And his granddaughter, she found him. She kind of
She hunted
catched
down.
him in in Geneva.
Wow.
And she wrote a book about this.
Okay.
And this book is called 40 Years of Silence.
I'm writing
So
it
she
down.
interviewed him.
40 years
Well,
of silence.
By that time, he had Alzheimer's, which could be a reaction to this post-traumatic stress. You see?
Yes.
Yeah. And she wrote this book about it, and it's really, really interesting. 40 Years of Silence. Yeah.
And I heard also that there was some times where they were doubting the interpretation too because of how horrible some of the accounts were. They're like, sorry, can you repeat that? Like, is this accurate? And then it was and they said the same thing over and over, 3-4 times. They're like, wow, it is accurate. It's just that was very horrible.
Yes. And mind you, most of these interpreters were Jewish. So can you imagine? I mean, interpreting
any reason?
the people who sent your family to Auschwitz.
Any particular reason why they were? I mean, they're better at language, or
well, they were pretty good at languages at that time. So yes, but many of them were Jewish. Very interesting. I have obviously more details which I don't have in my mind just like that, because obviously the exhibition was now 4 or 5 years ago. Because open a bracket. After the European Court of Human Rights, we did the exhibition at the University of Strasbourg as well, in the Aula Magna of the University of Strasbourg. So that was very good.
Tatiana,
with the help of Tatiana. With the help of Tatiana. I mean, she was my right hand, really.
Everything comes full circle and found an interpretation.
Come on, we're a big family, aren't we? Yes.
Absolutely.
No, but this Arnaud Jakubowicz and all that was really incredible. So this book was really very interesting as well. And I was hoping that Arte would make it into a film or a documentary or something like that. I'll have to insist about that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, maybe we should we should start doing documentaries for fun interpretation. And that should be one of our topics.
Indeed. Yeah.
Because we already have like a kind of a document interpreter, like one who did a documentary, Adam. It was in the refugee camp, or still is in the refugee camp, in Kenya. And there's a lot of things that you're saying that remind me of him, because he is also a victim of genocide. His whole family was killed in Sudan and then ended up in Kenya. And he, as an interpreter, has to, when people come into the refugee camp, he has to tell their stories to the people who are doing all the intakes. And he just has to relive this trauma day after day after day. And he's working alone 8.5 hours a day doing this. So it's just
yeah. But if I may, I mean, it's quite something, because we do experience it sometimes, and we do have this trauma from time to time. I mean, the guys who work at the Hague at the War Crimes Tribunal. I mean, can you imagine those guys sitting in the booth when this guy from Yugoslavia swallowed poison just in front of the whole courtroom when he was sentenced, and he killed himself, and I mean, the interpreter sitting there and actually interpreting him and for him, and he was taking poison and things like that. So I mean, the stress for us, I mean, we have to find a way of coping with this. And I think during a long career as an interpreter, you find ways to cope with it, because I don't know if you can see it this way, is that you're very neutral and you just interpret what's going on there, but you don't allow it to go into your brain and into your heart, so to say. But there are situations when you have to be very careful about this. Like, I remember 2 instances where I started crying while I was interpreting. It was during the Greek crisis, where there was a young man from Athens in the Council of Europe, and he was saying, we have no future in our country any longer. I have no idea what's going to happen to my life. I did studies, I will never get a job. And he started crying while he was talking, and I was interpreting him. And when someone starts crying, I mean, yeah,
It's
what shall I do? And I mean, your larynx just goes like this, and you can't continue speaking. And then suddenly you say, wait a minute, you're supposed to be neutral. But obviously we have to be the speaker, and we have to mean what we say. So yes, we have to somehow.
In a way, you are being neutral, though, because you are giving the actual exact emotion.
You cannot, because you have to give the emotions. But if someone starts to cry and you can't speak anymore because you're crying, it somehow didn't work. And then another instance, remember in Iraq, where these Hasidic women had been raped and their families killed and so on. And one of them got the Sakharov Prize of the European Parliament. And I interpreted at the press conference, and there she was. And she was actually telling the story of her family being killed, her mother, her sister, and herself being raped. And she was just sitting there and telling this story. And I was interpreting, like putting a shield around myself. But suddenly it kind of trickled down to me, and I said, wait a minute, are you aware of what you are saying? Are you aware of what you are interpreting there? How can she stay that cool saying that? And how can I stay cool while interpreting those words and imagining what she had gone through? You see? And I gather that the colleagues who work at the War Tribunal and in The Hague must feel when they interpret those things. And that's exactly what happened to the Nuremberg guys. You see?
Did you? So I remember you said at the beginning of our podcast that when we were doing your conference in Nuremberg, there was the
Argentinian general prosecutor.
Yeah, and he was talking about throwing people off planes and stuff. You had to interpret, and they were throwing people off planes. How do you feel after that? Like, do you need to? What do you need to do after?
I mean, well, you have a drink afterwards,
or two.
But but the thing is exactly that. If you have to have a mechanism of getting it out of your system right away, stop thinking about it. I mean, you are there. You mean what you say. You transmit those feelings while you're interpreting. But once a conference is finished, you need strategies to get rid of that. Because can you imagine keeping 40 years of conferences and whatever in your brains? I mean, you go nuts anyway. Huh?
Yeah.
So I kind of eliminate, and when I do a conference again or the same subject, I go, okay, I remember doing this. And then it works. But on the other hand, when you're sitting there, you are in the conference, you are in the speaker's head, so to say, and you are your master's voice.
Yeah.
But once your mic is off and the day is over, you need to forget.
It's amazing. It's amazing how you can compartmentalize all these little things. Like, I mean, they're big things, but you put them in the back of your mind, and then when it comes back, you're like, "Oh, I'm going to take this."
It pops up again. That is true. That is true. Yeah. Obviously,
so what do you do? What do you do?
Conferences.
What do you do to cope with that? What do you do to cope with that emotion?
I don't know. I just eliminate it, kind of.
Okay, so you naturally
I don't really talk about it very much because My partner, he doesn't care. He just says, "Okay, you go interpret and earn some money." And
Enjoy the
people
good
tend to
life.
think it's a job like any other job, and it's
Oh yeah,
true.
my
We
partner
should
doesn't even
not.
listen to this podcast.
Yeah. See, yeah. My partner has never come to a conference or to the Council of Europe to hear me interpreting. So,
Okay.
I mean, people tend to say, well, don't take yourself too seriously. You're just a little wheel in this whole machine. But
But I feel
obviously,
like the
we as
reason,
interpreters take each other very seriously, and we think we're the most important people in the world, which we are
No, but
not.
it's not the first time that I say this. But when you say somebody else's words, you have no other. You talked about shutting off your brain. You can't shut off your brain because it has
While
to go
you're
through your brain
interpreting.
in order to say it in another language. And when you're
That is
saying
clear.
something, you can't have a special channel for avoid some vicarious trauma in your mind because at some point it's going to touch your heart, especially if you can relate to it. If I
That is
have,
very true, but somehow we would go mad and schizophrenic if or have vicarious trauma with this. So I kind of shut that out or off when I've finished. Those 10 minutes or this half an hour are the most important 30 minutes in your life each time.
yeah,
You see,
yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
something I teach my students as well. I mean, those 10 minutes are the key minutes in your life. But when it's over, it's over.
Yes.
You see? So I don't know. I mean, there have been all these conferences about vicarious trauma and there has been some work in AIC as well about
PTSD.
vicarious trauma.
Yeah.
Yes.
well,
Well, I don't know. Perhaps I haven't had the worst one yet. Who knows?
well, it depends. I think that we all have a different emotional response or empathy level and all of that. Some people get like I've seen my booth partner cry while I was like, oh, not. I didn't understand why she was crying for this one as much.
Yeah.
I could understand, of course,
Yeah.
from the speaker, but not to that level. But some others, especially example, I have children. Well, whenever I hear something wrong that is going on with children, then suddenly I have to make sure that I try as much as possible to focus on the message, because if not, my mind will spiral and, oh, what if it was my kid? And then suddenly you think of somebody else's kid, but you put your kid's face into it. Like you have to, you need some, you need to help sometimes we're interpreting. I don't know about you guys, but I see a bunch of images and I play with all kinds of thoughts at the same time in my mind. And sometimes the mind drifts and you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, but those are parasitic thoughts. You're not supposed to be drifting. And that's parasitic thoughts that will take over. You see?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's quite interesting. And obviously, I was an opera singer. I trained as an opera singer, and I did obviously lots of concerts and things like that. And I remember once I was studying Schubert's Winterreise, which is quite a emotional thing. And I was studying this and with the text and everything, I was singing this. And suddenly, while I was singing, I was really interpreting the text, which you have to do as a singer anyway. You have to know what you're singing. And first of all, you work from the text and then you put music to it and then you sing it. But once you've understood the text and really interpreted the text. And I started crying while I was singing. And that means I went over a limit, because if singers don't protect themselves from that, they won't be able to sing.
Are you critical on yourself for that?
No.
Are you criticizing yourself for it?
Not really. Well, that happened while I was rehearsing. And then I thought, wait a minute, on stage I can't do this. You have to convey that feeling. You have to feel it, but only up to a certain point, because otherwise your voice is just not going to work. Right. You start crying while you're singing, you see? Mm-hmm. So it's quite something I apply in interpreting as well.
Your opera career and your interpreting career, did they ever overlap, or was it opera first and then interpretation? Or
I stopped singing. I stopped singing.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, obviously I always wanted to be an opera singer, and I trained for opera and things like that. And while I was interpreting, and during my whole interpreting career, sometimes I would take like a week off or 2 weeks off and only sing and rehearse and have some productions and things like that. But then I had to go back to the booth, and it was very difficult to have both. Actually, it was 3 because I was I'm a trainer. I'm still a trainer. So in the end, my voice decided this is enough. You can't go on like this. 3 big careers with voice.
Pick one.
And so it happened that
pick
during
2.
a concert, I hit a high note and it cracked. My voice cracked. And that was the moment I decided, let's call it a day. No more singing. That's it. Okay. And I haven't sung a single note ever since.
Really? Not even like humming in the shower or anything like that?
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Nope.
So I'm not going to ask for you to sing us something on this podcast.
No way. But I'm a voice coach.
Well, speaking
I
of
train interpreters.
Speaking of voice coach, do you would you like to share a few tips for our listeners, because all these interpreters that are listening, about how to manage your voice, or perhaps before, after, during?
Well, that's a good question.
I want to give you a whole class, of course.
That's
but
2 hours training.
Chapter 1.
Okay, so
this is for the paying version.
To breathe. You have to learn how to breathe correctly. So actually breathing with your stomach out a little bit, getting your air all the way down with your diaphragm, and then learning how to support your voice. Support your voice from down here, from your diaphragm, and opening up your resonators up in your head and the back of, this whole, not like an opera singer up there. That would sound very strange if we interpret it like this, you see. It's just having a normal voice, but with your resonators and actually giving support. And if you keep that during the whole day, your voice will survive a day. You see? So, yes, and there are lots of exercises like humming exercises. Yawning is very good to open up your resonators.
Yawning?
And then yawning. In there, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, it is a pleasure to be here today. I'm overdoing this now, but somehow keep that, and then being able to actually give a little impulse to every single word at the beginning. But then it's units of meaning, like Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the way you learn to mean what you say and not just stay on the surface of what you're saying. See, getting it through your body and your mind. And it's very important. As an interpreter, I'm known for using my voice, obviously. I have the voice I have. Yeah. And but that helps, because that's the way you really can transmit meaning, and also people remember you. Your clients remember you immediately. They turn around and go, "Okay, that's him again."
It's you.
Oh, that's
but
one.
but think about it for a second. If you have to, you do units of meaning. You put your voice into it. You put a lot of yourself, and at the same time, you have to avoid vicarious trauma. That is extremely challenging. This is something we all have to manage. But what I'm saying is that the more you give yourself into the interpretation, the more it impacts you emotionally. At least in my case.
Yes.
At least in my case.
No, emotionally, really, I keep my emotions
No.
out. I transmit them into the other language and culture. Obviously, it's not only language, because we transmit between cultures. But when it's over, it's over. Completely over. I'm tired. It mobilizes. You mobilize a lot of energy. But I always say, take the energy from the speaker and transmit it to your listener. So use the energy you get from the speaker, and with that same energy, give it to the next one. And by the end of the day, obviously, you're exhausted because you have mobilized so much energy. That is clear.
What if the speaker is just so monotone?
I was going to say that. Yeah.
for
What
like
if
an hour.
what if it's bored? What if the energy is boredom?
Because we've done boring ones.
I
too.
sell my
Yeah.
product. I say, guys, wake up. I have something to tell you.
They're like, I'd rather listen to this in the other language.
Yes,
I speak
yes,
both
yes.
languages,
Mind
but
you,
you're
I've
boring and you're
survived.
not. So there we go.
I've survived 40 years of Korea, and it's going to be another 5, I suppose.
That's
But
excellent.
yeah.
Do you
And
find
it's-
like you're not? I mean, you say another 5, but like you're
I'm not
nowhere.
retiring yet.
No,
I'm going to be 65 in 3 months' time. I'm going to be 65, and I was thinking about retiring at 65, and then I decided, no, it's going to be 70.
Yeah.
And then 75.
I feel like you still have a lot to
no,
give. That's why
no,
I'm
no, no,
asking.
no. I want a good life and want to travel. And I do travel a lot, obviously. Yeah.
Do you find that
So-
that's a difference in Europe? Like I picture in my mind that European interpreters are always on the road. Is that the case, or?
Yes and no. I used to travel more for work at the beginning of my career because there weren't so many Spanish interpreters around with German and in my combination. So I would go to Brussels almost every week. I lived in Heidelberg at that time, and then I would go, for example, a week to Rome, a week to Madrid, a week all over Europe. This is much less nowadays. I mean, I'm based in Strasbourg, so I do come to Brussels from time to time, and that's about it. Or The Hague, but no more big trips around Europe any longer. That's mainly for the permanent interpreters in Brussels. Obviously, Brussels is the center for interpreters with the largest client, which is the European Union, obviously. But I mean, during my career, I did a lot of traveling, like to South Africa mainly because I had very good clients in South Africa. But I did not really. I was never part of the big traveling gang of interpreters with private market conference in Tokyo, in Asia, in Beijing, and whatever. So I never did that. The one big thing I did was a 2 weeks mission to Guatemala and Haiti for the German parliament. But that was about it. Yeah, but there are colleagues who do this still, but it's getting less and less, I must say.
Now, I do have a question about, because the euro was introduced after you had already started your career.
Yeah, sure.
So pre-euro, like how do you convert like lira and pesetas and francs?
You had a
and Swiss
purse
francs?
with different compartments,
Is that-
with different currencies: Belgian francs, Italian lira, Spanish pesetas, French francs, and so you have them like. And wait a minute, where am I next week? Okay, I'm going to take these one out. And yeah. And
So
nowadays we don't even have cash anymore. We use our credit cards all over the place. And when I go to Switzerland, I say, wait a minute. Why can't they take euros? Oh, wait a minute. Are we going to the UK? Oh no, I need pounds. What's this? You see? Can't they take euros? Really? What's this?
But
Yeah.
do you think that like the conversion to the euros maybe standardize the rates for interpreters, or do you think it's
the rates? I mean, not really.
No,
We're very different rates from one country to the other still.
Really?
So, and because obviously AIC is not able to fix rates, we may not because of legal questions, but obviously there is a going rate. We talk about going rates in Germany and France, and even within France, there are different rates for Strasbourg, Paris, or the Côte d'Azur. And then in Italy, the rates are different. In Spain, the rates are lower. Even in Belgium,
you
the
mean
going rate for the private market.
When you're saying, for instance, here in Canada, it's more of a range. Not everyone gets the same rates or offers the same rates according to which agency we do business with and the end client. Are we talking about a range here, or you're talking about something more fixed?
I mean, it's not a fixed rate, it's a range, but I mean, all the private market interpreters in Germany, the good ones, I mean, they have a certain range and they don't go below a certain amount.
Of course.
They can go higher, it's better.
So where's the best place to live in Europe in terms of rates?
Switzerland.
Switzerland? Okay.
Really?
Yes. But I've been told that the Swiss colleagues are having big problems because many companies are doing away with interpreting.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
either just everything in English and very little Spanish, even German. Everything. Everyone thinks they speak wonderful English, which obviously they don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And same
Yeah,
thing.
but understanding English is one thing, asking a question and expressing yourself in English is another,
Yes,
Yeah.
which is
obviously.
what I found. No, but for instance, here in the federal government in Canada, they're requiring mostly interpretation services, not for listening to the French, but more when they want to intervene, ask a question, or make a presentation.
Okay.
Then they'll need the interpreters because passive is one thing in a language and active is another.
Yes, yes. But here in Europe, I mean, French people are terrible at English, obviously.
That's good
But
for
they insist
interpreters.
on speaking English. No, they insist on speaking
Oh,
English. And then we have to translate that horrible English into whatever, Spanish in my case or German in my case. And the poor French interpreters have to do this back into something French. You see? So that is quite horrible. But the good thing is that we still have the European institutions, which are obviously the largest clients. And there we have fixed rates, which have been negotiated by IAEC in agreements. So that is a very good thing.
Now, in
Yeah.
your career as a trainer, just to change gears a bit, you were talking about institutions in Europe. I'm assuming that everything is still like kind of status quo as opposed to North America, where they closed down, where they're closing down Monterey. They're not accepting new candidacies into the master's program at Glendon College. Like, are you guys seeing like a decrease in offering interpretation studies in an academic setting?
It seems. I mean, I do teach at ESIT now in Paris, and
Mm-hmm.
we had just a few students applying. I have one student with a German B, so I'm actually giving her private lessons from French into German, and that's
Wow,
about it. You
there's
see?
one
And then I
student.
said one student.
Wow.
She's
that's
private
getting
lessons with me.
good bang
Yeah.
for your buck, eh? Yeah, that's
Yeah, 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 yeah. So the Strasbourg school closed down. So there's only ISIT in France. In Germany, there's Heidelberg and Gammersheim in Cologne. And I've no idea how many students I have. They seem to be working still quite okay. But it seems also that young people are having doubts about doing this. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So the
Well, if
podcast is good because it shows that we still love interpreting and it's a great job and then there is a future in this. Really.
Yes.
oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if people hear all the time, especially young people, if they hear that we'll be replaced by machines all the time, it's not something that encourages young people to go into interpretation. But the irony is, I think that we have a lot of work nowadays in. If I had to hear the people back in 2022, they would have said that by 2025 we wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
And
And that's not the
look at the
case.
situation now.
And that's not the case, indeed. Because obviously, at high level meetings, they'll still need us.
Mhm.
Plus, I mean, look at the latest studies about AI interpreting. They hallucinate this machine. They just invent things all the time. Okay, not that we didn't invent things if we don't understand, but obviously we
Or
say
know
we
that
will
we don't
not leave it out.
hallucinate sometimes,
But
but for
we
different
no,
reasons.
we hallucinate for different reasons.
Yes.
You're right.
Outside of the
But
workplace.
yes, yes. But I mean, we say that we try to say the truth because that's what we understand. So we sell what we did understand.
Mhm.
While and then there's the problem with voice recognition, which is not really working very well. Plus, then having artificial voices rendering the message. I mean, there are lots of things. The problem is, and this is something I've been thinking about, the criticizing AI interpreting comes mostly from the interpreter's profession, from the interpreter's community. We are not neutral there because obviously we're defending our jobs.
Mhm.
So I have no idea what the clients say and what those companies say who actually want to sell us AI interpreting.
Yeah.
But I've heard so many people who have been hired last minute for conferences. Like on a Thursday, there was a big conference and everything was done with AI. And for Friday, they were asking for a full team of interpreters because everyone was complaining that it was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
But who knows what's going to happen in 10 years' time?
Yeah.
I mean, the
Absolutely.
evolution is very fast, very quick, and probably quality is going to improve.
Yeah, but if
and they're using our voices, by the way.
yeah, but
yeah.
does it take for interpreting? We don't realize it, but it takes more than just your ears and your mouth to interpret. You need your eyes too.
Brain and your brain.
But it takes one more sense, which is your eyes. Think about I did once a whole week where no speaker were turning their cameras on, or maybe we didn't have the feed or something, and it was one of the most horrible weeks I've ever had. But I didn't feel like I did. I missed some things. There was some misunderstandings, and if the computer just based the interpretation on voice recognition, I think that there's a sense missing. I think that maybe if someday in 10 years from now, they'll say, you know what, in order for the machine to really understand, we need to put a camera in and in order to film the conference. So the machine knows that, oh, this is the next slide. Just saying, okay, we're in the next slide now. Well, if you're a human, you need that. The machine maybe does too, to do a good job.
Yeah, good, Alain. Okay, but you're defending yourself and your profession. It's again from the interpreting community where this problem comes up.
We're the best at making up the point, right? But
yeah, okay. But someone who's not in the profession doesn't know that. It doesn't care.
Which is why, in a way, we have this podcast. It's not just for interpreters; it's for the general public to know what we do, because we're always kind of in the background, right? We're never in the spotlight.
But I'm very much afraid of one thing: is that people are going to, not be able to learn how to analyze properly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the concentration span nowadays is about 3 minutes, or not even, you see, and we're supposed to be concentrating for 30 minutes. No one is going to be able to concentrate for 30 minutes like we do, you see?
Yeah.
And how do we analyze? I mean, you listen and you have your strategies, and you have reflex inhibition as a strategy, and you have décalage, and we don't start and we don't do word for word, you see, because we're analyzing. Our brains are working to get, what's this guy trying to tell me? And I mean what you say, you see? So AI, how is AI going to do this? The analysis factor is going to get lost.
Yeah, and they say also with the general public, it's the attention span is going so low that they're doing advertisements are like 10 seconds, or else you lost them. Or like I was listening.
Brian, are you sure that it's a good idea to do a 1 hour podcast with the attention span?
We have a lot to say.
Yes.
If those who are listening to this 45 minutes in, I hope that you've kept up with us. But I
hope you're still with us.
But like, I warned you. You have to stop me. Don't talk me.
But I was listening to this podcast about Spotify, and how, like, back when we were younger, like, there was a solo from U2 that starts, with a guitar riff from the edge, and it just keeps on going like that, and then a second instrument comes in and keeps the beat going and everything, and then all of a sudden you get into the chorus, and it's "The Streets Have No Name," and they're wondering if, like, today that song would still be a hit, because people's attention span on Spotify is 5 seconds. If you can't get their attention within 5 seconds, then you've lost 50% of your listenership, and then the other 5 seconds drops down, or the other 50% of them drop off after 10 seconds, and you only make a royalty if someone stays listening to you for 30 seconds. So artists themselves have to condense their music into the first 10 seconds to grab people's attention. So yeah, I understand what you mean about the whole you have to get people's attention and keep people's attention.
Well, that's why I brought my kids to the cinema all the time, because they're forced to be in the dark with a big screen and they can't scroll it.
That's true. And they can't run away.
Please put away your cell phones. Yes.
Yes. No, but that's a problem. I mean, if we don't train interpreters, we're going to go back to the self-trained people who won't have the same quality as the trained people are going to have. So going back to Glendon, Spanish is no longer trained in the Americas. Can you imagine? So, I mean, all these people are going to pop up and just doing English, Spanish, Spanish, English, the best way they think it is. I've been giving courses in the whole of South America for AIC training and professional development in Santiago, in Quito, in Lima, in Bogota, Panama, and so on. And we're actually trying to prepare something in Mexico for Spanish Bs with English A's and Spanish Bs. And just many of these people have no training whatsoever, and they're working at international conferences, and they're pretty good. They're surviving, but they don't have strategies. They don't have a real technique. Most of what they do is parroting most of the time. So that is so important, interpreter training. Unless we would say it's okay, these people are working okay, let them go on working. This is what is going to happen if we don't have masters anymore.
Yeah. And are people going to use a 90-10 formula where, you get 90% of the way there, but in order for it to be perfect, you need that last 10%. And that's the part that takes the most work.
And that takes as much as the 90%.
Yes.
But
perfection is not possible for an interpreter.
No, but I feel
perfectionist.
But I feel like that's the complacency that our clients face too. Like they're like, oh, it's like we expect Zoom to crash every once in a while. Yeah. We expect this to happen every once in a while. So like, I don't know if it's becoming like you maybe
it might become the standard. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Although we cannot be 100% perfect. We are not. I mean, you can do a speech wonderfully and you say, hey, you tap yourself on your shoulder. Oh, I'm a genius. And then you do the next speech and you fall flat on your face. You see? Yeah.
And when we say fall flat on our face, it's like the self-critique, right? Because we're the worst critics of ourselves. Like
we are.
Yeah. If you're ever in Brussels again, say hi to Helen Campbell for us.
I will next time I'll meet her. Okay.
Awesome. Say hello and say hello to Tatiana as well.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Like I said at the beginning, we become quite a community, so it's great.
Indeed.
Anyway,
I would say to be continued. There's
Absolutely.
There's a lot to talk about. Indeed.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see each other next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.